Like God source cares about us all so much because he, she, it is us.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 4 of Awakening to Ascension podcast. And I will be your host today, and we have Alex, Marlene, and Melissa present, as well as myself, Janae. And today's topic is identifying false prophets, which is quite a serious discussion, I do believe, and all four of us are in agreement with this. And it's a topic that I think needs to be addressed just within the spiritual community, because there are a lot of individuals that are on their awakening journeys and they are just beginning. So they are a little bit misinformed sometimes, and they are also in a vulnerable state. So I'm not sure who would like to begin the discussion, but I think it's going to be quite an interesting chat today. Okay, we're going to start with Alex.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So I chose this subject or this topic because there are so many false prophets out there. And in order to identify them is important because they're going to be giving information that's either untrue or part of a different agenda rather than just helping others and helping others. I first got wind of this when I was growing up in a highly religious LDS household. And I got frustrated because they always told me that we had to talk to the prophet, or the prophet would share us the message of God, and we all had to listen to him. And from my perspective, I wasn't able to ask God myself, or like when they would say to pray, like God will answer your prayers, but like I would pray, I'd follow their format, their script, right? And I would always be left hollow and empty. And then it turned into this belief that God doesn't care about me, which is you couldn't get further beyond the truth. Like God's source cares about us all so much because he, she, it is us, right? We're just a reflection of that of source through a different lens, if through the lens of experience and growth and this three-dimensional world that we live in. And when I got to the realization that like if anyone tells you, like you have to come to me for these answers, you can't figure them out yourself, you can't go to anybody else, everybody else is wrong except for me, huge red flag, huge red flag. And then also what I'm seeing a lot in like TikTok and on Instagram are imposters. Someone that literally mimics somebody else's account. This actually happened with my shaman, where her imposter reached out to me asking me for a reading. And I was just like, I know this person in real life. She doesn't do this. And so what they're doing is they're using spirituality to breadcrumb you or like to throw a fishing line to hook you in that vulnerable state that Janae mentioned, and then selling you something that you don't need. I mean, there's a chance it could probably help in some way, shape, or form, but it's not with the right intention, right? And then the third thing I want to point out before letting someone else take the stage is people that are in it for themselves. Like we're a collective, us that are advocates of the new earth, we're in this together. And if you're only out for yourself, then people around you will suffer. But if you ensure the people around you are doing well, then by association, you yourself will be doing well.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And a very another big flag that you can look out for is when these so-called prophets are prioritizing financial gain. So if that is something that they are continuously punting to you, that you need to contribute financially, it's the work and the mission of prophets here on earth is to serve. We are here to serve God, and that is not in monetary means. It will come naturally. But if you have these so-called prophets that are constantly asking you to make payments and do those sorts of things, I think you should just step back for a moment and just revisit the intention of what that individual is trying to give you. So I just wanted to add that to what you have already said. And, Marlene, do you have anything that you'd like to share with regards to your experience?
Well, I think for me, the first thing I'd like to say is that the word discernment comes to mind as well, that people are going to need to learn to discern much more in terms of who's out there, what people are saying, what people are offering, and as you have mentioned, the intention behind it. It is not just to take people at face value and believe anything that gets put onto the plate. It's honestly about how does this resonate with me, and doing a lot more work in terms of what is behind this person, what is the actual mission and vision and intention that sits behind all of these offerings and these people, because there is so much out there, and one honestly has to be so much more careful and discerning in your own spiritual center and your connection on your third eye, even your consciousness. You have to really step up to the plate.
Thanks, Marlene. And another thing I'd like to also add is these individual so-called prophets will also tell you that you should not be listening to other teachings or being exposed to other individuals that are also sharing. So they want to keep you only listening to what they have to share, so that you almost feel like you are relying only on their knowledge to enlighten you. And it's almost a trap that they are putting you into. So, and I say this out of experience, I experienced during a course per se with somebody who basically said that I was not allowed to practice other yoga and do meditations and do anything other than what they were teaching me. And in this stage of my awakening journey, I didn't know that that was a red flag. So that's also just something that I wanted to share with you all. And and Melissa, do you have anything that you would like to share from experience or just knowing?
I want to say guide, spiritual leader, prophet, coach, they all fall under the same name, right? And I do want to say, I think that everyone's going to pull from the theory, right? And create their own. And when it comes to people that I've never personally experienced this, because I have a gut that I have 100% authenticated my connection with my mind, where if something doesn't feel right or I feel like out of place, I usually exit. I don't ever force myself being in a situation, but I do truly believe some people do force because they feel like they are unworthy and they come from a confidence that is very lack, and they feel like, wow, I want to really be like that person. And I think that's kind of the, bobber in the water, and the person that is feeding the information is the fisherman, and we are the fish. And, that little hook with the little minnow may look good to us, but it might not always be what we expected it to be. And I think ultimately coming in, it's just research, so much is out there now that we can, my first thing of the word prophet was what Alex was talking about, in Utah, right? The whole background of the, I have Mormons that live in my neighborhood. They are amazing. They do tons of work, service work. They leave their home 6 to 8 months to go to like Australia or to China. And these are really authentic people that are service. And I think that's the big thing. If you don't see these people servicing or really filling your soul in the way that it's a two-way of receiving and sharing, that is really your red flag. If it's all about You know, you go to an appointment, like a yoga appointment, and they bring out their crystals and they're like, this one's going to help with your heart. You know, you got to buy the rose bracelet, right? This is what's going to help you step into that next level. You don't, I think sometimes you have to really step back, because this is a business where people are looking at expansion. You know, it's no different than a musician that has merchandise, right? You go to their concert and they have their merch, t-shirts, hats, stickers. It is ultimately a business, and people are going to grasp at that thinking like, wow, I just want to really be like that person. So as long as I'm around them and surround myself around that energy, I could, you know, become that person. And I think, you know, like I said, going back to square one, I've been to certain different like seminars and workshops, and I just didn't feel it was right for me. And I do truly believe if you are deterred by something in your stomach, it just doesn't feel right. That's really your indicator, is just to exit. But it is theory, because I've been in this 5 years worldwide. I've worked with people in the UK. I have a 20-year-old son that's doing his version of theory. I've looked at all different religions. Everyone's going to kind of see what fits them, and it doesn't mean it's always going to fit you. So I think the big thing is really just, you know, using your gut meter.
Yeah, I want to kind of touch on something that you each said because it all ties in so well. So, Marlene, you mentioned discernment, and that's huge because like you will get bombarded with these different people, these different like prophets that have their own version of whatever. And to be able to discern what's right and wrong, you really have to trust somebody and to find out if what their message is not aligned with you. It might feel wrong. They might screw you over out of a bunch of money. That happened to me a few times. And so like now I know what to look for. And then Janae, when you're talking about people that tell you not to look anywhere else, like that's actually a narcissistic trait. Like they want to be the only one you're going to, and because they know that their information is lacking, they're afraid you're going to go find somebody else that says something that resonates more deeply with you. And then Melissa, when you were saying like how to like trust your intuition as far as like because you kind of want to make your own version of whatever people are telling you. I mean, that's I think what we should be doing. There's truth and there's lies into like all texts, right? And when someone says my way is the only way, that's their only way for them. So I think what we should do is listen to what people have to say and then take the bits of it and pieces that resonate with you because you are the version of your own God. And things are going to sound differently. You have had your own experiences that have gotten you to the point where you are, and only you can divine God for yourself.
Yeah, I think, you know, really, if you really want to tip your toe in the water, I always say go to a local, you know, healing fair. You know, you're going to get everyone there. You know, I think when I started to tip my toe into this, I thought, I've been to really authentic psychics. I have someone in my family, she's Croatian. She was like the most authentic person. And I thought I would never be like that. I didn't have that gift. And when I always went to healing fairs and start getting a reading, and you could just feel it. Like these people are literally really trying to grasp their intuition, right? They're really trying to build their skills. That's why they're here. I give them tons of credit. I give them this discernment. But when it didn't resonate with me, I just let it go and walked away. Try another one. You know, you have the healing fair. You can spend 3 hours popping around and just seeing what fits with you.
And, you know, something else as well, which is a really important point, is a prophet should essentially be guiding you to your inner truth and then, you know, empowering you to become your own master. So they don't remain the master. You are essentially becoming your own master through this experience. So you don't need to rely on somebody else to continuously guide you because you will eventually become the teacher. And, you know, there's that saying that says the teacher arrives when the student is ready. And you will then start to become the teacher so that you can share the knowledge that you've gained from your prophet onto your students, and then those students will then become teachers. And it's just this beautiful effect that will take place where we are going to start awakening as a massive collective here on earth.
Yes, so that's a good point too. If you meet someone who is your healer and there's like no end in sight with the healing, like you just come back every week, every week, every week, every week, every week. Like I was in therapy for 30 years, about like off and on. And there was like no end in sight. And then when I got out of that and started doing like hypnotherapy, and I learned how to do that, like we have a certain amount of sessions, and then you're done. You're healed. I mean, you're healed enough, to not need it as much. But anyone that you're seeing as a healer or a guru, they should have a plan in mind to get you to see them less. So kind of like working themselves out of business, but that's how you know the healing is actually working.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
totally agree. Yeah, that is a huge point. When I went through my Reiki master training, I didn't think I'd ever reach that. I just wanted to do Reiki 1 so I could do intuitive development skills and take my guides classes. And once I found that foundation and resonated with her and the skills, and she even said in day 1 that when you have a client, because usually when you're Reiki 2, Reiki 3, you can start bringing on clients. She said, if someone is coming back to you on a regular basis, you are literally taking their power away from them. And you do have to step in and say, this is something that you have to trust within yourself. And you have to cultivate that within yourself to go to that next level yourself. And it is. And right there, when she told me that, I was like, this is my true guide. This resonates with me. She's authentic. This is someone that I know she's going to say, nope, you don't need that. Even though I'm crying, like, I want more classes. I want more classes. She would tell me, she was like my drill sergeant. And I think you have to find what resonates with you. And I needed that very type A personality, sweetest woman, but she was like a drill sergeant, and she said, nope, cutting you off. You don't need to come to this class. You are already ready. So you need someone that's going to step you into your own power.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's critical to understand that I am my own master, and that whomever I come into contact with and whatever they are to give me is for my highest power, not for actually feeding into them, and that they honor me for being my own master and empowering me in every step. That's absolutely, I think, the most critical thing ever. Yes.
And I think that is a perfect wrap up for our episode today. We are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments on how to identify false prophets, or maybe someone that has wronged you in the sense of healing or guidance, drop that in the comments below. And if you're looking for a community, you can definitely join us. You go to school.com/ascend pathway. I'll put the link in the description as well. Thank you so much for being here with us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.